Pandemic, a reason for the population of this world to stay inside the house and increase the population birth rate. Also a reason to hate my life since I am alone and wrinkles are starting to appear on my palm. Thankfully, today we are not speaking about my time in the pandemic, but Yoshino's, who is about to plan his kids. Inside a room, Yoshino is being touched by a girl. She is the class top beauty, and for some reason they are living together. Because of how hard she is touching him, the boy can't hold himself anymore and lets out a sound. Apparently, Hashikawa is on a Zoom call with her teacher, who hears Yoshino's scream and questions, "Who was that?" It turns out the girl forgot she wasn't streaming on her channel where 40-year-old men donate money for her ASMR content. She excused herself, saying it was her brother who just came to get the reference book she is using. After turning off the microphone, Hashikawa apologizes to Yoshino for being too rough. Thinking back to their school days, Yoshino recalls that Hashikawa was the top student in their year, the class beauty, and rumored to be from an old, prestigious family. She received confession after confession, and because of her popularity, Yoshino believed she was someone completely unrelated to him. But now, being alone with her in this room makes his heart tremble. More importantly, why did she touch him? Is that how real-world women behave when left alone with a man? Looking at her expression, the boy believes something is wrong with the computer. Hearing Hashikawa agree, he moves closer, and for some reason she is smiling. Something seems odd, as though she enjoys watching Yoshino try to fix things in her life. Perhaps the boy thinks he might be able to fix not just the computer, but her as well. Moving on. She better be thankful he is a gentleman. Otherwise, who knows how many times he could have fixed her in the last 5.5 minutes. Something seems out of place. Once again, the girl's skirt appears to be a little too high, revealing her tender thighs. Her face is red. Could it be that she is exposing them while being fully aware of this? Maybe Yoshino is misunderstanding this. That's why the boy continues to fix things and grabs the girl's skirt and moves it down. Pretending she doesn't know anything, Hashikawa questions what is wrong, but the boy suggests it's nothing. Observing her red face, he wonders if she is feeling unwell, but it is not the case. Maybe it would be a good idea to brew some warm tea later since Hashikawa is not good with machines and she can't make it. All this started 3 days ago, in April of the second high school year, when Yoshino got surprised to find out there was an infected person inside the school and they must disinfect the area. That's why, for the time being, he won't be able to enter inside. From today, it was decided that the dormitory will be closed. Hearing that, he freaks out. All his belongings are still inside. It turns out that everyone was evacuated back to their hometown, as it would be problematic if a mass infection were to occur. Turns out, the old man forgot to inform Yoshino, who will be living on the streets, because moments later, when calling his mom, she refused to accept him inside the house and she is scared of getting infected. Even his friends declined him. He tried to find a place for the time being, but everyone refused him. At the internet cafe, high school students are allowed inside until 10 p.m., and the hotels are way too expensive. Without any options, he found a good bench in the park and laid down there, ready to sleep outside. As he is about to travel to the dream world, someone with remarkable milkers is walking towards him. Observing the way that meat is moving from one side to another, the boy realizes that person is Hashikawa from his class. As their eyes meet, the girl quickly looks away and pretends she is searching for signal on her phone, but obviously she was searching for something else. Yoshino is confused. What is this woman doing? Meanwhile, the girl tries harder, with the phone above her head, but the eyes still directed towards Yoshino. The boy is not that dull, and observing her reactions, he is about to start a conversation, but the girl is ahead of him and wonders if he is Yoshino. She could not tell at first since he was wearing a mask, and it was so dark. Isn't that unfortunate? The boy could recognize her just by hearing the flop her mommy milkers are making when clapping, but she could not identify him because of that small mask. The girl seems really happy and questions Yoshino why he is out there since it is already dark. And as the boy suggested, he was about to sleep outside since the student dormitory was closed due to an infected person. Hashikawa wondered what about his family. But she finds out even his family refused him. They're done hearing Yoshino play Yamate Katasai on repeat every night at 12 p.m. while using the bathroom for 3 hours straight. As she got her answer, the boy wondered why she was here and found out she came to catch Wi-Fi like it was a Pokemon and bring it home. She heard that without Wi-Fi, she won't be able to attend the classes starting next week. Hearing that stupid remark, Yoshino tells Hashikawa to use her mouth for better things than spouting nonsense. The public Wi-Fi in the park can only be used in this area, but if she has internet at home, you can set up a remote environment. Thankfully, the girl has internet at home, but the issue is that she is bad with machines. The girl knows Yoshino is in the computer club and wants him to teach her some about it if it's not too much trouble for him. This feels like a dream. A day when Hashikawa would ask Yoshino for help seemed impossible. That's why, without losing any time, the boy agrees. More than that, it is better to give her a hand than sleeping outside while alone. Set to leave, the girl grabs his hand, pulling him towards her house, making Yoshino believe this feels like a date. Apparently, the girl lives in a luxurious building. Everything is so shiny until she takes off her mask. I'm not sure how to feel about this. Yet, the boy is astonished by her face. Before going where the computer is, Yoshino would like to greet the girl's family since it's this late. Hashikawa is confused. Her parents are not around. She is living alone, and they have the place just for themselves. As they entered the bedroom where the computer is, Yoshino could feel a nice smell. Hashikawa farted. Her laptop is the same as Yoshino's. Ready to start fixing, the boy takes a step, moving closer to Hashikawa, and slowly says, "Get ready. I'll touch it for a little." Hashikawa was not prepared to see this bald side of Yoshino and gets flustered. Seeing her expression, Yoshino believes there might be something she does not want him to see on the computer and tells her she can touch it first. The girl does not realize the boy is speaking about the computer, and her face turns all red while she is suggesting she has no experience. Moving closer, Yoshino's face being the Titanic and Hashikawa's the iceberg. They are about to collide and make some kids float in the unknown. Ready, she says yes and expects his metal pipe to hit the ice. Somehow he dodged it. Yoshino made a 360-degree turn and moved towards the computer. The girl feels all embarrassed now. She was waiting for something else to happen, and now, looking at how delicately and powerful he uses the mouse, the way he presses the left click button, and the noise the mouse makes every time its fingers collide, sends shivers through her body. Yoshino finished so fast. He is about to leave, but Hashikawa grabs his hand and thanks him. But when suggested he should go back, Hashikawa wondered back where. Well, that's not good. Yoshino might get sick. Therefore, since Hashikawa lives alone and there is a spare room next door, she is about to invite him to spend the night. But as she mentioned, it's already late, and this dull boy does not understand what she is trying to say. The girl wonders why he keeps on trying to leave. Hearing that, Yoshino starts thinking she is offering him a place to stay, but it would be a problem if he were to ask that directly. If he messes up now, there is no turning back. Thankfully, at least one person has guts. That person is Hashikawa, because right now she is shouting, "I'm bad with machines, so I can't do anything besides Wi-Fi." Since Yoshino is good with him, she would be okay with him staying over. He is not stupid enough to say no and agrees. Right now, Hashikawa is so enthusiastic she cannot let go of his hand, not even trying to hide it. Looking at this cute creature, Yoshino can't believe she is the same person as the flawless beauty he saw in the class. With that being said, there is a chance the Titanic might hit that iceberg. Apparently, there is a big lie that was told all this time. Her whole life, Hashikawa family told her she is bad at lying. They always said you could tell when she was hiding something by looking into her eyes. But today, she is celebrating. Yoshino did not find out. Thanks to that, they can live together. Apparently, their meeting in the park was not a coincidence. When Hashikawa received a notification about the student dormitory being closed, she automatically thought about Yoshino. She wondered if the boy made it back. Even though she would feel lonely, all that matters is him being okay. But what if it is not the case? She must check that herself. After all, she is not bad with machines. She is smart, and everything about her being completely unaware of how technology works was a lie. She even deduced that since there is nowhere for a high schooler to go, he must go to a park. That night she was not trying to catch Wi-Fi, but Yoshino. Thanks to the mask she had on her face, Yoshino did not manage to see the smile on her face when she found him. Unfortunately, she did not think everything through, and the lie about being bad with machines was just a spur-of-the-moment thing. Apparently, a year ago, at the beginning of school, at the entrance ceremony, her phone was not connecting. There was nobody around, but after about 30 minutes, a boy passed by. Hashikawa stopped him and asked for help, and within seconds he managed to solve the problem. Finding out Hashikawa is going to enroll at this school, the boy tells her she can rely on him anytime if there is another problem like this. Right at that moment, her heart started pounding really hard, and butterflies started flowing inside her belly. She realized she had fallen in love after they met in the classroom. There, he seemed indifferent to girls, a person you could easily overlook. Someone reserved but calm, gentle, and sincere. Everything about it seemed so cool in her eyes. The problem was she never knew how to approach him, and because she is bad at lying, Hashikawa thought he would realize she likes him the moment their eyes meet. Therefore, the girl created a world inside her head where she could see Yoshino's gaze. She could feel his hard and tender, big hands. His reaction to her words and actions. Yet, this world created in her mind was not enough, and her desire became uncontrollable. But today, she ended up bringing him to her apartment. Yoshino was so cute. Hashikawa can't stop wondering what kind of reaction he would have made if she played more pranks on him. She wants to rely on Yoshino a lot more. She wants their bodies to collide. However, right now is not the time to be flustered. Starting tomorrow, there's a problem Hashikawa needs to tackle. She must get closer to Yoshino. Right now is the best time to do that, but Hashikawa does not want to be seen as pushy or a loose woman. Therefore, she must make the boy make the first move. She must make sure her lies remain hidden. Another day, as Yoshino woke up, something soft was touching him. Upon opening his eyes, your mom Hashikawa was lying down next to him. The boy was really confused, not knowing why she was there, but the answer is obvious. That is because this is her room, which is not the case. The girl's room is the next one, and she suggests she had entered the wrong one while still half asleep. As she leaves the bed and stands in the doorway, she displays her cute silhouette and tells Yoshino she will make breakfast for him. Yeah, I wish I were him. Right now, the only silhouette I see in the morning is my dog licking his ball. Minutes have passed, and Yoshino can still feel her warmth and soft body. Hoping he hadn't done anything weird last night, the boy moves toward the bathroom. Once there, he notices some men's clothes and a toothbrush that clearly aren't Hashikawa's since she has everything in the color pink. And when I say everything, I mean everything. Maybe those things are her boyfriend's. Yoshino thought she was a pure girl, but that was the false image he created of herself. Therefore, his presence here might be a bother. That's why he must thank her properly. With a smile on her face, Hashikawa suggests the breakfast is not ready yet. And even though the boy is trying to give her a hand, she declines since the only thing left to do is cooking it. Since she is living alone, cooking was something she had to learn. Hearing that, the boy is surprised since he thought she was not good, but surely she can use the stove and the microwave. Realizing she is about to mess up and get exposed with a lie, she quickly suggests she doesn't know how to use them. Right at that moment, the rice cooker is making a noise suggesting the food is ready. The girl pretends she got it working by sheer luck and determination, prompting Yoshino to praise her. Without hesitation, the girl asks Yoshino to teach her how to use the stove. For some reason, the boy tries to keep the distance, but gives in when the girl uses her puppy eyes. As the boy moves closer, and their shoulders touch, Yoshino remembers what he saw this morning, prompting a stream of sweat to slide down his ass cheek. The girl realized that, and a smile appeared on her face. Yoshino tried to hide it, suggesting it may be the hot pot's fault. Once everything is set on the table, the boy is amazed by how delicious everything is, regardless of the fact that she is not able to use any machines. When complimenting her food and suggesting he is a lucky guy, Hashikawa's heart starts delivering more blood to her cheeks, and I am not speaking about the lower ones. Yoshino is thanking the girl not only for the great food, but for everything she provided him until now. The girl even went to the extent of borrowing him some clothes, which she is giving to him. She is going to pay for them since they are brand new. Hearing that Yoshino is curious, weren't these clothes her boyfriend's, letting Hashikawa in a state of surprise, not knowing what he is talking about? This is so wrong. The girl does not have a boyfriend and never had one. She just got those stuff to be well prepared. Moreover, Yoshino is the first person Hashikawa invited inside her house. Because of the wrong assumption he made, Yoshino feels embarrassed and tells the girl if there is anything she would like him to do, don't hold back. That is not the only reason. Yoshino wants to thank her properly since she is the reason he can live like this. There must be something she wants from him. Hearing those words, all kinds of things go through her head, but for now, she will be okay with a date, or better said, accompany her while shopping for stuff. Later, while shopping, Hashikawa takes out a black card to make a payment. That is not something obtained by people who like the letters S and M. That means she is extremely rich. Walking around, it feels so strange. Everything is closed and no people are outside. It feels like a different world. Hashikawa, observing him looking all around, questions if there is somewhere he wants to go. Yoshino would like to treat her with something, but everything is closed, which is why the girl suggests she can eat something when they arrive home. While walking back home, Yoshino thinks about Hashikawa, who is also a human just like himself, so it wouldn't be strange if she had things she is not good at. Since she excels in certain areas more than others, it wouldn't be weird if there are areas where she falls short. However, things start taking a turn when the two arrive in front of the building Hashikawa is living in. The girl suggests she does not know how to press the elevator's button, making Yoshino suspicious. He realized Hashikawa is not bad with machines. Yoshino remembers clearly the first time he came to her house. She pressed the button, and there are way too many unnatural things. As he is about to question what the meaning of all this is, looking into her eyes, making him back up, he cannot ask anything and only thanks her for the hard work. Even though he wants to know why she is lying, protecting that smile is way more important. Therefore, what is the benefit of pretending to be bad with machines? Only to lure him into her house? That can't be true. Yoshino knows she is enjoying his reaction when teasing him, and he also knows there is no bad intention behind it, but for Hashikawa to show affection towards him, it's abnormal. Yet, the world is in an abnormal situation with the virus, and maybe even Hashikawa might have feelings for him. Standing on the school premises, Yoshino is thinking about how coming here by himself made him feel good, because whenever he was alone with Hashikawa, he felt like he always came up with some crazy ideas. As he wandered around the school, he kept thinking about how the school authorities still hadn't decided on reopening. His thoughts stopped when he saw the sign on the school door that said the school grounds were off limits. As he stands at the school door, looking at the sign, he starts to remember how lively the school used to be during school hours and even on weekends. He could almost hear the sounds of club activities. Then, looking up, he notices it's getting dark and decides to head back home because it'll be a pain in the ass if the school security catches him. As he heads back home, he starts thinking about how he was driven out of the dormitory, left with nowhere to go. It still didn't feel real to him. But now that things had settled down, he was beginning to realize how much the world had changed around him. Reaching the door, he pressed the doorbell, and Haruko opened it, displaying a huge smile and two big reasons to be happy about being home. Seeing her left Yoshino a bit surprised, his eyes widening in disbelief. Yoshino stepped inside and greeted Haruka, telling her he was home. She immediately noticed how tired he looked and asked if everything was okay. He brushed it off, claiming it was nothing and that he just needed to wash up. Haruka, with her usual warmth, suggested that they make dinner together once he was done, and Yoshino agreed. Yoshino couldn't believe it. Everything felt like a dream to him. Living together with Haruka seemed so unreal. He thought to himself that if he were alone, he'd probably succumb to the feeling of loneliness. But right now, he wasn't alone. He started to realize that Haruka wasn't as bad with the machine as she had made out. She'd lied about it, and Yoshino, curious, wondered why she would pretend. It was a mystery, but he chose to turn a blind eye to it. After all, living with the class's top beauty in a luxurious mansion with 3 meals a day had its perks, and also they might be able to grow together in love. But in order to protect this sacred lifestyle, he had to stay vigilant, making sure not to upset Hoshikawa so that his ulterior motives wouldn't be discovered. Lost in thought about all this, he suddenly found himself holding a lady's underwear. He froze, shocked and at a loss for words, realizing that, with only the two of them living in the house, it must belong to Hoshikawa. As he tried to quickly return it to the laundry basket, Hoshikawa caught him red-handed, calling him a perv. He turned around to see who was talking and froze when he realized it was Hoshikawa. For a moment, he just stood there, then suddenly knelt down and apologized. Hoshikawa, her face full of anger, asked him why he was holding her underwear when she came in. Stammering, Yoshino explained that he thought something had fallen, so he picked it up. Hoshikawa stood there, silent, making Yoshino panic, thinking he was about to be despised and kicked out. With a shaky voice, he confessed that he really didn't mean to pick it up and hadn't known what it was. Then, Hoshikawa interrupted him, laughing and saying she was just joking. Yoshino was stunned by her words. With a smile, she reassured him that she wasn't mad, telling him not to be scared. She even apologized for leaving something so weird in such a conspicuous place. Yoshino quickly told her it wasn't weird at all, but rather silky. The moment the words left his mouth, he felt embarrassed, questioning why he had said something so weird, also asking himself if he was an idiot, to which Hoshikawa tells him that she doesn't mind. As he tried to lift his head, something fascinating caught his eye, making him quickly apologize and confess that he saw it. Hoshikawa, confused at first, quickly realized what he meant. Her face turned red as she covered her chest, clearly embarrassed. Once she calmed down, she reassured Yoshino by telling him that she doesn't mind since it's him. Yoshino stood up awkwardly, mumbling that he's still a guy and that she should be a bit more cautious. This made Hoshikawa pause, questioning what he said, to which he hastily replied, "Nothing." As Yoshino turned to leave the dressing room, he stopped at the door and told her that he'll be more careful from now on, also telling her that she can use the dressing room first. As Yoshino walked away, he thought to himself that he shouldn't trouble Hoshikawa anymore by saying unnecessary things. Meanwhile, in the dressing room, Hoshikawa reflected on how nervous she had been. She regretted her actions, realizing that her small prank of pretending to drop her underwear on the floor had gone too far, which ended up causing trouble for Yoshino, leaving her feeling sad. The next day was a calm Sunday, and they sat together watching TV. Yoshino felt uneasy with how close Hoshikawa was sitting to him. In a sweet, baby-like voice, Hoshikawa called out to him, saying her phone screen wouldn't display. Yoshino told her to hand it over, so he could take a look, already suspecting she was pretending as usual. Leaning in closer, she asked if she could watch how he fixed it, and Yoshino agreed. While watching, she said that seeing it up close would help her remember it better. Yoshino found it hard to focus with her so close and quickly fixed the phone before handing it back. Hoshikawa thanked him with a smile, telling how he's of great help. A minute later, Hoshikawa called out to Yoshino from the kitchen, saying the hot water wouldn't flow. Yoshino asked her to let him check it. As he was about to check, Hoshikawa grabbed Yoshino's hand, telling him her hands had gotten cold from washing them with the cold water. Then, she asked Yoshino if he could give her some of his warmth. Just as Yoshino was about to say something inappropriate, Hashikawa pointed out that the water had started flowing again. She then called him to the bathroom, complaining that the light wouldn't turn on. Feeling slightly annoyed, Yoshino told her he'd come to check it, but asked her to wait. He couldn't help but notice how Hashikawa had been acting all day, pretending to be bad with machines just to stick close to him. Clenching his fists, Yoshino tries to hold himself back, knowing that letting his guard down might allow the demons to take over his body and pin the girl down. He resolved to stay rational and endure any temptation. After checking, he told Hashikawa the light was fixed and that the wires were just faulty, knowing all along that the light hadn't really been broken. Yoshino realizes that if things continue like this, it's going to get really dangerous. To protect both this lifestyle and Hashikawa, he knows he has to put as much distance between them as possible. Later that day, while Hashikawa was taking her bath, she realized that Yoshino had been avoiding her since the bathroom incident. Every time she tried to talk to him, he would pull away or head back to his room. She started to wonder if she was being too clingy. She knew she often acted impulsively and regretted it later, a bad habit of hers. As she soaked in the bathtub, she suddenly became determined. She couldn't let things stay this way. After her bath, Hashikawa went to the living room and called out to Yoshino, asking if she did something wrong. Yoshino was shocked to hear this and quickly told her she didn't do anything. She asked again if he was sure, and Yoshino told her he was absolutely sure. Hashikawa turned to face him, kneeling down as she told him she somehow felt like he was avoiding her, or maybe it was just her imagination. Stuttering in his mind, Yoshino thought he couldn't possibly tell her the truth, that he might launch a full-throttle cuddle attack if they got too close. So instead, he told her it was just social distancing. With a worried face, she explained to Yoshino that it saddened her, especially since they were now living together. But she guessed it was true that Yoshino wouldn't want to catch something from her. The boy quickly explained that it wasn't like that, and he would rather catch something from her. Though we're not just talking about her dazzling smile when sitting down in her favorite position, kneeling. She looked a bit confused, and Yoshino quickly apologized. Tell her he didn't mean it, to which that was both inconsiderate and creepy pretend-like, but before he could finish talking, Hashikawa interrupted him as she stood up, placing her hand on Yoshino's leg. She told him that if being close enough to avoid getting infected was the rule, then she could keep clinging to him. With that, she sat next to him, and Yoshino couldn't help but think it was unfair how Hashikawa always seemed to make him face the situation. All his efforts to distance himself from her would be in vain. But as he looked at her, he noticed the satisfied expression on her face, and he thought that maybe it was fine after all. As Hashikawa sat next to Yoshino, she couldn't focus on her phone. She kept thinking about how, until now, she had only been able to look at Yoshino from the classroom. But now, the person she loves is sitting right beside her. She could feel his warmth and scent, but at the same time, she started to worry. She wondered if Yoshino would come to hate her if she wasn't careful. To make sure that doesn't happen, she decides she has to be careful and not cross the line. She also thinks that Yoshino hasn't realized yet that being bad with machines was a lie. She only pretended like she didn't know certain things in the heat of the moment, but she feels that Yoshino might naturally get suspicious if he catches her lying. She wonders if he would hate her if that ever happens. Thinking about their remote class together, she starts to worry if she'll be able to get through it. The next day, Yoshino walked into the dressing room and was surprised to see Hashikawa. They greeted each other with a simple, "Good morning." Seeing her, Yoshino thought about how they had been living together for 3 days now and realized how fast time was flying. As she yawned, he couldn't help but notice how cute her lips looked. Before he realized it, his eyes drifted downward to her chest, where he was startled by how noticeable it was. As he continued to stare, Yoshino suddenly panicked at his thoughts and quickly tried to compose himself. However, now that he had noticed, it became impossible to ignore completely. Suddenly, Hashikawa asked if he planned to wash his face. Before finishing her sentence, however, she slipped on the floor. Yoshino shouted for her to watch out and managed to catch her just in time. In the process, he accidentally grabbed onto something soft. Startled, Yoshino immediately apologized. Hashikawa, feeling flustered, thanked him for saving her from falling. Embarrassed, she quickly left the dressing room, telling Yoshino to take his time. As she walked away, Yoshino stood there, lost in thought. He was relieved that Hashikawa didn't seem angry, though he couldn't stop thinking about the accident. He hoped she hadn't noticed that he had instinctively gripped his fingers in that moment. Shaking the thought from his mind, he reminded himself to focus on their remote classes, which were starting soon. Once fully dressed, Yoshino prepared for the day. He knew that remote classes followed the same schedule as regular ones. Students were required to wear uniforms while teachers conducted lessons in the classroom, and students attended live via the internet. Yoshino recalled Hashikawa asking the previous day if they could take their classes together. Yoshino had no choice but to decline, telling her she should attend her classes in her own room. He didn't want to be a distraction for her. Yoshino also knew that if anyone found out they were living together, it would cause a huge uproar and bring unnecessary trouble for her. Now back in the present, Yoshino chose to take his classes alone in the dining room. Since it was the first remote class, he expected it to end early. Despite its brevity, he wanted to stay focused. Suddenly, the teacher called out to Hashikawa, noting she was disconnected. Yoshino grew curious, wondering what had happened. The teacher assured the class that technical issues were common on the first day and reassured everyone that Hashikawa would be fine. Yoshino felt relieved, trusting the teacher's confidence. To his surprise, he suddenly heard his name called out behind him. He turned to see Hashikawa standing in the dining room, startling him. The teacher, noticing the situation, asked what was going on. Thinking fast, Yoshino explained that a cockroach had appeared, causing the disruption. After the call ended, Yoshino turned to Hashikawa, who looked scared and teary-eyed, asking where the cockroach was. Feeling awkward, Yoshino admitted he had lied about the cockroach to excuse himself. Hashikawa sighed in relief, glad there wasn't actually a bug. After calming down, Hashikawa explained that her laptop wasn't working. Yoshino offered to take a look, but before he could start, she quickly took the laptop back. This made Yoshino suspicious. Was she trying to trick him again? Hashikawa then asked Yoshino to sit next to her with his laptop. As he obliged, Yoshino couldn't help but wonder if she was okay with him sitting so close. Her warm smile reassured him, putting him at ease. Hashikawa explained that the screen on her laptop had suddenly gone black. She asked if it was broken. Yoshino turned it on, pressed the power button, and the screen came back to life, much to their relief. Hashikawa looked startled when Yoshino explained the laptop had just turned off, making him wonder why she reacted so strongly. When he asked if he could return to his seat, Hashikawa gave him a pleading look, almost as if she wanted them to stay together. Yoshino couldn't help but wonder if she had done all this on purpose, but he pushed the thought aside as they rejoined the online class. The teacher asked Yoshino if he had taken care of the cockroach, to which he awkwardly confirmed. Turning to Hashikawa, the teacher inquired if her connection was fixed. Hashikawa confirms and apologizes for interrupting. As the teacher instructed the students to turn to the next page, Yoshino couldn't stop wondering about Hashikawa's intentions. Did she really mind him sitting so close? Her bright, piercing smile made him feel a pang in his chest, realizing that she truly didn't seem to dislike his presence. Yoshino's heart softened further, recognizing how much her proximity meant to him. Glancing at Hashikawa, Yoshino thought that if she stayed quiet, no one would find out, and they could continue taking the class together. But within a few minutes, he started to regret sitting next to her as she began poking him. Whispering softly, Yoshino asked what was going on. Hashikawa replied that her computer was acting strange. Curious, Yoshino glanced at her laptop and noticed the screen wouldn't turn on. Before he could figure it out, Hashikawa leaned closer to him and suddenly blew into his ear, startling him. Yoshino almost freaked out, but quickly tried to calm himself down, not wanting to make any noise that might draw attention during the class. Minutes later, Hashikawa began to stylishly touch Yoshino's hands. Yoshino quickly realized that if this kept up, he'd be done for, so he immediately distanced himself. This left him curious about why she was acting this way. Shortly after, the teacher dismissed the class, telling everyone to prepare for the next subject. Yoshino felt relieved that he couldn't take any more of it, feeling like he'd been tested 30 times during the lesson. As the class ended, Yoshino started thinking how nervous he was and why. Despite everything, he felt a strange sense of happiness. Hashikawa then turned to him and casually complimented him on the good work he'd done during the class. Curious and a bit confused, Yoshino wondered what she meant by good work. He noticed how satisfied she looked and found her reaction amusing. As they exchanged glances, Hashikawa asked Yoshino if he was mad at her or disliked what she'd done. Stuttering, Yoshino told her he wasn't mad, just surprised, and admitted that he didn't dislike it. Hearing this, Hashikawa playfully teased him with a baby face, and Yoshino couldn't take his eyes off her. He noticed how incredibly cute she was, how her skin seemed so translucent, and how the contrast between her usual honor student demeanor and this playful side was almost unfair. In that moment, Yoshino finally understood how others felt when they had a crush on her. Hashikawa asked Yoshino if they could take tomorrow's class together like they did today. Yoshino, surprised by the suggestion, clarified if she really meant taking classes together. Hashikawa nodded and added that if any problems came up, she'd expect him to fix them immediately. Yoshino thought about it for a moment. As long as he didn't show up on the webcam, it seemed manageable. He called out to Hashikawa, agreeing to help but warning her not to do anything weird. Hashikawa paused briefly, then smiled and assured him that she wouldn't do anything he didn't like. Curious about the look on her face, Yoshino reluctantly agreed. Hashikawa thanked him warmly and, with a slightly romantic tone, said she was looking forward to taking classes with him. As Hashikawa suggested, the two started attending their online classes together. While the class was in session, Yoshino couldn't help but think that if something went wrong with Hashikawa's computer, he'd have to step in to fix it. At the same time, he would also have to check the state of her screen, as long as he didn't accidentally show himself on her camera. It seemed like a good plan, but that's if Hashikawa didn't cause any unexpected trouble for him. While Yoshino was lost in thought, the teacher called on Hashikawa to answer the next question. As expected, she gave a perfect response. Hearing her, Yoshino thought about how calm and honored she always was. Even in class, she was like that. Lost in his admiration, Yoshino realized that hearing her voice up close was strangely calming. Suddenly, he let out a yawn, which caught the teacher's attention, who curiously asked if someone had yawned. Panicked, Yoshino quickly covered his mouth, thinking that Hashikawa's mic had picked up his voice. After a moment of relief, he realized he needed to be careful and avoid getting caught. A few minutes later, the teacher dismissed the class and told the students to reconvene after lunch. After turning off the mic, Yoshino felt tired and frustrated with himself because he couldn't concentrate in class. Even though he was staring at the computer screen, he could still see Hashikawa's beautiful side profile. No matter what, he couldn't ignore the sound of her breathing and the rustle of her clothes, making it even harder to focus. Lost in thought, Hashikawa called out to Yoshino, to which he was startled. Hashikawa asked him what he planned on doing for lunch, to which Yoshino asked if it was about the class line. Room is an app used for web meetings. It is capable of video calls with a large number of people, which is a bad list for remote setups. This made Yoshino curious. It was supposed to be fun because he didn't have enough friends to do this kind of thing, but he had no choice since Hashikawa invited him. Hashikawa asked Yoshino to join her for lunch, but he felt like he wasn't included since it was Natsuki, Hashikawa's friend, who suggested it. Natsuki is a friend and a cherry Hashikawa-obsessed girl who Yoshino struggled to get along with in class. Trying to excuse himself, Yoshino told Hashikawa not to worry about him and suggested she turn on her camera to enjoy lunch with Natsuki instead. Still, Hashikawa tried to convince him. asking if he had ever hung out with Natsuki and the others. She assured him that she would introduce him to everyone and insisted that having lunch together would be more fun. With a warm smile, Hashikawa pulled out a bento box and told Yoshino that she had made a portion for him. Yoshino couldn't bring himself to refuse, partly because Hashikawa's homemade lunches were always delicious, and partly because of her kind gesture and radiant smile. Minutes later, the meeting with friends began, and Natsuki, clearly irritated, spotted Yoshino on the screen. She immediately questioned why he was there. Yoshino, expecting her unpleasant reaction, couldn't help but wonder if she disliked him. Before he could respond, Hashikawa quickly stepped in, explaining that she had invited Yoshino because she thought it would be nice for them to eat together. Natsuki, still unconvinced, asked if Hashikawa had gotten that close to Yoshino. Hashikawa told her that they had only recently started spending more time together, just 3 days ago. Natsuki stared at Hashikawa and Yoshino through the screen, making Yoshino feel uneasy. To him, Natsuki was like Cerberus, while Hashikawa was an angel, and he wanted nothing more than to disconnect from the call. When Natsuki asked what their relationship was, Yoshino quickly replied in a defensive tone, saying they were just friends. But Natsuki shot back, saying she wasn't talking to him. Yoshino knew that since he didn't want to be glared at, he must keep his mouth shut. But he couldn't help but wonder why someone as kind as Hashikawa was friends with someone like Natsuki. The girls started chatting about how they wanted to hang out, meet everyone, and how lonely they were, but the virus was keeping them from going out. Yoshino couldn't help but feel left out, his exhaustion starting to show. He was genuinely happy about Hashikawa's homemade bento. Its color scheme looked great, and it tasted even better. It was a small escape from the tiring reality he was dealing with. Out of nowhere, Natsuki asked a blunt question that caught Yoshino off guard. Is Hashikawa living alone? He froze, startled. Natsuki, annoyed, quickly told him to keep quiet, and Yoshino immediately apologized. Natsuki then turned to Hashikawa, who stylishly replied that she lived alone. Natsuki, curious, then asked Hashikawa if she didn't feel lonely living by herself. Hashikawa hesitated for a moment, stuttering, before saying, "Not really." Yoshino noticed a subtle shift in Hashikawa's reaction, something that felt off. Curious, Natsuki asked Hashikawa if she was lying, to which Hashikawa simply replied that she lives alone. Natsuki then suggested that she could come over and they could hang out. Yoshino, feeling frustrated, silently prayed that Natsuki wouldn't actually come, calling her an idiot. Natsuki added that she'd wait until things settled down before coming over. As Yoshino was about to head back to his room, Hashikawa called out to him, telling him that Natsuki had texted her a while ago, which surprised Yoshino. Hashikawa then asked if it was all right for Natsuki to come over. Yoshino quickly declined, saying no, which startled Hashikawa. He apologized immediately, explaining that it wasn't something he could decide and that it was up to her. Yoshino explained that if Natsuki decides to come over, he'll just leave because it would be a nuisance if she showed up. Hashikawa reassured him that she would just refuse Natsuki's offer. Yoshino then told her that they absolutely couldn't let anyone know they were living together. Hashikawa asked if it was really something they couldn't tell anyone. Yoshino was a bit surprised by the question, but explained that they couldn't because if anyone found out, they would make a big deal out of it. Hashikawa agreed, and Yoshino could sense her disappointment. Still, he knew that if the truth came out, they would both be in serious trouble. Trying to tease Yoshino, Hashikawa asked if it was because their relationship was a secret. Stuttering, Yoshino agreed with her, to which he asked her to keep it a secret. Hashikawa asked if she should keep it from Natsuki, and Yoshino quickly told her that she should no matter what. Hashikawa seemed to want to tell Natsuki, but then said she might just hint at it instead. Yoshino asked if that would be a problem if someone got in between her and Natsuki. Hashikawa, getting a bit annoyed, told him he wasn't a bother to anyone and that he shouldn't worry. Hearing this, Yoshino couldn't help but thank Hashikawa for being so kind to him in so many ways. She told him that he didn't need to thank her, but she appreciated it. Looking at her, Yoshino thinks those words of gratitude are not enough. He cannot let himself be spoiled by Hoshikawa like this. He has to figure out a way to repay Hoshikawa. As Hoshikawa entered her room, she jumped on her bed, smiling as she thought about Yoshino. She couldn't help but think how cute and honest he was when he thanked her. She wanted to tell Yoshino how he let her act spoiled, and his reputation was improving. She realized how amazing Yoshino was, to which she really loved him. But she seemed to think Yoshino didn't feel the same way, which made her hesitate. She thought about hinting at their relationship to her friends, but she knew that if they got caught living together, things could go wrong. She didn't want to cause trouble for him. A month has passed since classes began, and Yoshino started living with Haruka, the class beauty. What started as an unusual living arrangement had gradually developed into something unexpected, filled with subtle interactions and moments that left Yoshino questioning his feelings. During this time, Hoshikawa's teasing and playful provocations had become more frequent, leaving Kanata to suspect that her actions might not be as innocent as they seemed. Despite noticing Hoshikawa's growing attention, Yoshino couldn't bring himself to believe that someone like her could have feelings for him. Hoshikawa, with her stunning looks and social status, seemed far beyond his reach. In contrast, Yoshino viewed himself as plain and unremarkable. The stark difference in their appearances and perceived positions within their school only fueled his doubt, making it hard for him to entertain the idea that Hoshikawa's teasing could be motivated by genuine affection. Reflecting on his current situation, Yoshino found a sense of unexpected happiness. Although the cancellation of school events, such as the sports festival, was unfortunate, he realized he never truly enjoyed such activities. Instead, he found solace in the peaceful days spent with Haruka, whose presence had brought unexpected warmth to his life. One afternoon, Yoshino found himself in an awkward encounter with Hisaka, Hoshikawa's best friend. Hisaka, who was typically quiet and reserved, often seemed to harbor a strong dislike for Kanata. Her cold behavior toward him was evident, as she would frequently snap at him for reasons he didn't fully understand. This tension hinted at an underlying rivalry, though Kanata couldn't figure out why she seemed so irritated by his presence. Feeling down from his interaction with Hisaka, Yoshino struggled to concentrate in class. His low energy and pale expression did not go unnoticed by Haruka, who kept a watchful eye on him. Despite her teasing nature, her concern for Yoshino was genuine. Haruka's attempts to cheer Yoshino up often blurred the lines between teasing and care. Her actions during this time highlighted her growing attachment to him, even if she often used humor to mask her feelings. She even is willing to give her thick thighs as a pillow for the tired boy. Ready to make him excited, she wonders if he would prefer something more and slides her skirt. And you can call me Choo-Choo Train, because I'm all about diving into dark tunnels without worrying about finding the light at the end. Yoshino, having his cheeks red, cannot stop staring at her thighs, but is able to observe even she is becoming embarrassed by her actions. Wondering how long she is going to put up with it, the boy decides to keep on ignoring her. Hearing the boy say he is fine and that he is going to use the sofa when the break comes, she lets him know that is not going to happen. If he is not going to use her lap pillow, she won't let him use the sofa. Yoshino then decides he is going to take a nap on his bed, but even that is not going to work. What about the floor? Even that is not allowed. That's when he finally decides to use her as a lap pillow, making Hoshikawa show off a bright smile, despite being in the middle of the class. Thinking about it, it was the same in the classroom. The other students were also dozing off. They should not be noticed. And in the next second, he lays his head down, embracing those thighs that could be wrapped around his head like a vice, leaving him no choice but to struggle for air and maybe some dignity. Sitting in this posture is rather bad for him. Looking straight at her legs and not knowing where to look, he decides to rotate his head 90 degrees, and to his surprise, she is staring at him like a T-Rex watching its prey. She lets him know his hair is quite soft and starts rubbing it, but Yoshino believes he might go bald, prompting Hashikawa to offer him a massage. Feeling her hands move through his hair makes him feel so good, to the point where he is about to fall asleep, but he cannot do that since he is way too nervous. Yet, he wonders, how long will they be able to keep this up, fooling everyone and suppressing his own reasoning? Starting today, they entered the Golden Week, a holiday that gives them some free time. Yoshino has not been living in the house for over half a month now. Him and Hashikawa do not have any plans for this break, and the shops are probably closed. Believing the best option is just to stay at home, his phone starts ringing. And looking at the phone, Hisaka Natsuki seems to be the one calling. He decides to ignore it, but her persistence makes him go for it and answer. Even now, she seems to be pissing Yoshino off with her behavior. She even calls him a dull person, despite this being their first call. This girl wants to know something, and without losing any time, she questions the boy about what his relationship with Haruka is. Yoshino freaks out and tells her they're just classmates, just some friends, and keep on going, keeping the same attitude until the woman lets him know she was worried since Haruka invited him to the chat room. Hearing that he seems rather surprised, he called him just because of that. He thought she might have been bored, but she let him know that she was worried a weird bug like Yoshino might latch onto Haruka. Despite her continuous insults, the boy lets her know Haruka asked him for help with the Wi-Fi, and he only helped her. That's it. Hearing that, the girl is surprised hearing Haruka was troubled. It's something rare for her to be troubled. After hearing those words, Toshino remembers that he has never seen Hoshikawa ask anyone for help in the class, except once before the entrance ceremony. But Yoshino is blurred out for a second until he questions the girl why she is friends with Hoshikawa, making her say she is someone she admires. Hoshikawa helped her with the studies and many things in middle school. Because of her, she managed to get accepted into this school. Therefore, she owes her a lot. That's why she must crush any weird bugs that try to latch onto her. She wonders if this guy knows where her house is, prompting Yoshino to act clueless, suggesting she might be living alone near the school, and then receives a link from Hisaka. Accessing the link, he is redirected to a big hospital homepage. That is the hospital her family runs. Her father is a doctor, and that place's board chairman. Seeing this, Yoshino realizes she is more like a princess than rumors suggest. Living alone in a high-quality mansion and using a black card when shopping. She is not just anyone. After hearing his thoughts, the woman exposes what her intention was by sending that. She wants to make him feel there is no way someone like him could get close to her. However, at that moment Yoshino does not seem to react too much and wonders why this gal hates him. But as she is about to say something related to Haruka, she starts muttering and hangs up the phone, telling Yoshino he drives her crazy and that he will not get away if he dares to lay his hands on Haruka. This call made him really tired, and as he lays on the bed, he believes he is no good with Hisaka. Getting out for some water, in the hallway he bumps into Hashikawa, who is wondering what happened. Looking at her, he is relieved, comparing her angelic personality with that Cerberus friend of hers. He lets the girl know he was in a call with Hisaka, freezing Hashikawa for a moment. She wonders if Yoshino and Natsuki were close friends, but that is not the case. Maybe he tries to become closer with her? Not a chance. Wondering why did the two of them got in a call then, the boy informs her that Hisaka asked what kind of relationship the two of them have. But he only told her that he helped Haruka when she was in trouble, making the girl seem a bit disappointed. Apparently, she feels like he did not say enough and should have told her more, prompting Yoshino to say next time he is going to make his denial clearer. He's going to tell her they're just strangers. But this is not what Haruka actually wanted. As Yoshino wonders if he had misunderstood something, she simply replies with a no, saying goodbye. Observing her reaction, he realizes she looked down but cannot understand why. On the other side, Haruka realizes that was beyond her expectations. Who would have thought Natsuki would call Yoshino? And the words part, She ends up making a gloomy face in front of Yoshino, who now might think it was weird. Because of her, Yoshino ended up making connections with other women. Even though she just wanted to hint at their relationship, it turned out like this. It would have been better if she were the only one who knew of his charm. After all, if he properly talked with everyone, they might end up liking him. But not wanting Yoshino to be close with other women is pretty narrow-minded of her. Even though it's selfish, Haruka desired to have Yoshino only for herself. That's why she must make sure Natsuki never finds out they are living together.